2 weeks until silver reverses course, dealers backing out. Silver is going through a massive change. That spike we saw a few weeks ago has lost steam, and now the countdown has begun. In 2 weeks, we will have reports released that will change silver as we know it. Silver stacking requires us to look at this economy through a critical lens and to know the patterns of precious metals, to know how these key moving pieces impact the price of silver. That's why this endeavor requires us to go deep in the weeds more than anywhere else that people put their money. We need to watch the economy, and as these, luckily for us, as these reports roll out throughout the year, that it's like breadcrumbs. They tell us exactly, well, not exactly, but they give us a great idea about where silver is headed. And in 2 weeks, we will see the manufacturing and trade inventory and sales report released. This is the data that directly impacts the economy, directly impacts interest rates, and tells us where the price of silver is headed. Even today, we see the release of data for the Employment Trends Index. And this report, this just came out today. This tells us that the Conference Board Employment Trends Index, it tells us that an aggregate of 8 labor market indicators show underlying trends in employment conditions. And that's a mouthful, but the great part about this endeavor of stacking silver is we don't really need to wait for mainstream media to tell us what's going on in the economy. We don't need to wait for a pundit on television to tell us where the economy is headed. It's all available for us on the internet. It's all available for us online. I mean, this was never the case before. So as silver stackers, this is what we need to be aware of. We need to just on our own look at the economy through a critical lens. And it helps us know which moves to make as we're stacking silver. Again, 2 weeks from now, we have that report coming out. And just today, we have the Conference Board, the ETI, Employment Trends Index. And I know that sounds, again, like a mouthful, but it really is quite clear when you look at it. This says the Conference Board Employment Trends Index decreased in April to 111 from 112. And the Employment Trends Index is a leading composite index for employment. I'm reading it right from the report. It says when the index increases, employment is likely to grow as well, and vice versa. So as the Fed looks at inflation and tries to determine what to do with this tight labor market and gives us some hints about or where they want us to look regarding the expansion of our economy, we could see the information. It's right here. It's really right here for us. This says that the ETI fell in April as a sign that employment growth could stall in the second half of 2024. The ETI has been on a downward trajectory since its peak in March of 2022, and this month signals a continuation of that trend. So this gives us an idea that although we hear numbers thrown at us constantly in mainstream media about how many jobs are created and how this impacts inflation, we can on our own dig into this and see what's really headed for the economy. Now, as the Fed makes their own decision, we know from these reports, strength in the economy will result in consumers making their choice of where they put their money. So if the economy is very strong, typically they're going to go into treasuries, they're going to go into Wall Street, they're going to go into places where they could find a fast return on investment. When the economy is shrinking and tightening and moving downward, people pull out of those and go into precious metals. Sometimes they go into the housing market, but that's not even an option now with these high rates. So let's continue with this report. This tells us the 8 sections that they look at. It says they look at the percentage of respondents who say they find jobs hard to get. They look at initial claims of unemployment insurance. They look at the percentage of firms with positions not able to fill right now. So these are like the top indicators that this report looks at. It's really great. I mean, it really lays everything out for us. And as silver stackers, it's up to us. We don't just go into this endeavor blindly. That's one thing about our community of silver stackers is we do all this work for each other. And we know exactly what's coming down the pike. If this video is really helping you, please hit like and hit subscribe. It means a lot to help get this information out there. The other 4 areas that this report looks at is number of employees hired by temp agencies, ratio of involuntary part-time or all part-time workers, part-time to all part-time workers. It says, looks at general job openings, industrial production, and the last is real manufacturing and trade sales. So this report came out today, and also just out today, we see PMI reports globally, not just the United States. So this I pulled up because we're talking about silver, and this is about Cajun China. Now, people talk about gold in China, but really, China has been buying up silver, hoarding silver, and preparing to be what they want. They want to be the lead in this green revolution, and all of these solar panels and electric vehicles. China wants to have the silver to jump in and be the lead in that market. So we've heard a lot about China struggling lately with real estate and their commercial real estate, just as much as we have. But China has also been struggling with their economy. And this gets into the numbers and tells us, as silver stackers, what we have coming down the pike. This says that China's service economy expanded moderately in the opening month of the second quarter. It says faster new business growth was the quickest this year. It also says that central to the latest expansion in services activity was another rise in new businesses. After adjusted for seasonality, the volume of new work also expanded for the 16th month in a row. So they're showing expansion. This report says that in line with overall new business, foreign demand for China services also rose. It says overall business sentiment improved among Chinese service providers in April to the highest level since last December. And I like this part of this report because this tells me the specifics. It says Cajun China General of Services Business Activity Index came in at 52.5%. And that was down 0.2 points from the previous month. Now, check this out. That means the index remained in expansionary territory for 16 months in a row. So their economy, those numbers are actually quite similar to what we are hearing here in the States. They're at 52.5%, showing that their economy is expanding. Now, we get messages constantly from mainstream media telling us which economies are strong, where the red flags are, what we should be thinking. The Fed is pointing us in one direction, then the Fed points us in another direction. And I believe that as silver stackers, we need to look at these reports on our own. They're not very confusing, and they're really quite palatable. You don't need an advanced degree to understand what these reports are telling us. And as we see the next 2 weeks unfold, and we look for this next report that's coming out May 15th for manufacturing and trade inventory, that really gives us an idea of how our economy is expanding. Last month, the numbers were really not as strong as we wanted. So as we count down to that report, our price of silver really relies on all of these key moving pieces. And dealers smell this. They know this. There are already dealers backing out of the silver game. In my neighborhood, I have a dealer that is clearly backing out of the silver game. He used to be open 5 days a week. I don't know if this is happening in your community, but here where I live, he used to be open 5 days a week, and now he's cutting his hours from 5 days a week. Now he's only open 3 days a week. And this is one of those silver dealers. There are many dealers going through this situation throughout the country. He got into this career really because he wasn't interested in this silver that I'm holding and showing you on the screen so much. He was interested in numismatics and rare coins. And he got into it because he wanted to buy and sell rare coins. He was passionate about it. And 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, you could make a lot of money just locally selling those. There was a bigger market. Now that market is shriveling up. It's going online. And unless you have a larger business with much more inventory, you can't compete online. You need inventory to sell rare coins. You need a lot of rare coins coming into you. You need customers who are buying and selling rare coins. If you're just dealing with bullion and silver, you're going to have a small customer base, especially if you're in a small town. So a lot of these bullion dealers are backing out. They're seeing that this game is getting more and more difficult. The market is more and more difficult to compete with. The online bullion dealers are getting larger and larger. They just in the past 5 years, SD Bullion, Amex, all of these online bullion dealers, they invested a ton of money on building their brand, getting themselves out there, and now the local coin shops, the local gold and silver dealers, they really can't compete with what's going on